Hey,
This episode
brother!
was sponsored by War Thunder. Arthropods have been one of the most dominant factions in the game.
Hey, I'm sorry for pausing already, but I'm not afraid of spiders. I just want to put that out there. I'm not afraid of spiders, but as soon as they start to jump, that's where I draw the line, bro. Why do you need to be jumping around? Just do what spiders do, bro. Chill. Why are you jumping? I I hate spiders that jump. I know a lot of people can relate, but why do you need to be doing all that, bro?
Since pretty much the very beginning. The safety provided by their tough exoskeletal armor gave the arthropod player base a lot of room to experiment with new builds. One of the most successful examples is the Spider, a unique arthropod build with a whole arsenal of powerful abilities. But just how broken are spiders? Today, we're discussing their stats, their special abilities, and their matchups to demonstrate
Whoa!
just how overpowered they truly are. But before we talk about all of their busted attributes, first we have to talk about the least overpowered thing about them, their base stats.
Spider
While spiders are
stats.
some of the most effective predators the game has ever known, it's not because their raw stats are anything special. In fact, if anything, their stats make them look pretty pathetic at first glance. There's a common misconception that spiders are, like, absurdly strong for their size, and although they can indeed lift things 10 times their own body weight, that's honestly not even par for the course when it comes to their weight class. The real kings of the strength category, builds like the ant and beetle, are several times stronger. In fact, much of the spider's skill set is tailored around allowing spiders to take down large prey without needing to be strong enough to physically restrain it themselves. Defensively, things are even worse. Spiders
And
have
they
some
are
of the
good
worst
at it.
armor of any arthropod. Despite being more closely related to scorpions, their exoskeleton is more akin to that of a soft,
Damn.
plump caterpillar than
He is
anything else.
leaking.
Their weak point is completely unarmored and difficult for the spider to guard against. Any direct attack from
Hey, that's tragic, bro. Where's your heart in your booty? That's tragic. Hey, whole time that's why the heart is? I never knew that. Hey, that I don't know, man. That's tragic.
skeleton is more akin to that of a soft, plump caterpillar than anything else. Their weak point is completely unarmored and difficult for the spider to guard against. Any direct attack from a predator can easily one-shot them. Their stealth is their only good stat, with the rest of them being mid at best. Of course, that is on average. Some spider builds do specialize in mobility or raw strength, which I talked more about in my spider tier list video. Anyway, the point is, what makes spiders broken is not their stats, but their abilities. Spiders have access to a vast array of powerful perks that dramatically elevate their survival and combat capabilities. Real quick, let's go over some of the minor ones first. The spider's appendages may seem pretty unimpressive, and sure, compared to a scorpion's claws or a locust's legs, they're nothing special. But a few things. They do have small claws at the end, which grant spiders excellent climbing mobility, and similar to a lizard's tail, a spider's leg can snap off if hit by a grappling attack in order to escape a combo. Unlike the lizard though, losing only 12% of your legs is a lot less of a sacrifice than losing your only weapon. Many players don't even have the nerve to mess with spiders in the first place though, because of their next ability, venom. With a few exceptions, every spider relies at least partially on venom to bolster their combat strength. This gives their attacks bonus damage, making it a useful deterrent on defense. But more importantly, their venom inflicts the paralysis status effect, immobilizing their prey so that it can be more easily carried and consumed. Because of how low the spider's base power stat is, this venom often needs to be extremely potent, able to immediately incapacitate its target, giving it no chance to counterattack or escape.
That's the only reason I hate spiders, man. The venom. Because they will bite you. I don't know if they act like other animals where like they only bite you if they feel threatened. I don't know if it's that way with spiders too, but maybe, but I'm not willing to find out. I always see people having spiders as pets. I don't know, are tarantulas venomous? Somebody put that in the comments. And if you do have a spider as a pet, how is that? Explain to me, like, how do you even come to that? How do they sell them at the store? Where do you even acquire a spider? Like, I need someone to tell me because I'm very interested in knowing.
Okay, but enough beating around the bush. All of those abilities pale in comparison to the spider's signature special ability, spinnerets. On this channel, there are a handful of abilities that I bring up over and over as being meta-definingly broken. Tool use, flight, usociality, echolocation, color change, these all can make or break a character's placement on the tier list. I think silk spinning belongs in this same category. This ability is how spiders broke the game. It is one of the most versatile abilities of all, with applications spanning nearly every aspect of survival, from mobility to offense to defense to tons
Yeah,
of niche
it's
utility
so
use cases.
OP.
Let's break it down. The most well-known use is, of course, the standard web trap. A spider player will construct a sticky, net-shaped trap and simply wait for an unsuspecting player to accidentally fly in. Contact with the web immediately inflicts the restrained status condition, which is pretty much instant GG's versus a build that can one-shot you if it
That's
lands a hit.
crazy.
But trapping prey really
Hey, bro never had a chance. As soon as he landed, it was over. He got on him soon as he landed on the web. That was insane, bro.
Contact with the web immediately inflicts the restrained status condition,
Over.
which is pretty much instant GG's versus a build that can one-shot you if it lands a hit. But trapping prey really only scratches the surface when it comes to the utility of silk and spinnerets. I'd argue the ability to spin webs buffs literally every aspect of spider gameplay and completely negates all the shortcomings of their stats. In general, spiders are not all that nimble, their large abdomens are fairly cumbersome, and without wings, they're far below average as far as arthropods go. But the amount of additional movement options when spinning gives you is insane. Silk
Imagine if spiders could fly. That would have been a nightmare. I'm glad they don't fly because what in the hell would that be? I would live in fear, honestly. Like, I don't fear them from over there. But if they could fly, that would be. Imagine a tarantula with wings, bro. How insane is that?
can be used to cross massive gaps with ease. It can be used to completely negate falling damage. It can be used to quickly ascend from a low position. And in some cases, it can even be used to fly, albeit without much directional control, but also without the need for cumbersome
Whoa!
wings. Next,
They
let's talk
fly?
about stealth. While many spiders do have decent camouflage, webs complement their ability to hide in a few ways. The first is just that it enables them to hide in plain sight by positioning themselves away from places that a player would normally check. It's very hard for eyes to focus on something unless they already know the general area to look, so just by nature of sitting in an unorthodox spot, many players will completely miss you. But if a player does detect a spider's presence, there's an advanced technique they can employ to give themselves a better chance to escape. By mashing back and forth on your controller, you can cause the web to vibrate, temporarily granting you the blurred buff, boosting your evasion and making it much more likely that incoming attacks will miss. Webs may be the most useful for boosting the spider's offense. We already talked about the web trap, but there are many more ways a spider can use its webs to increase its odds.
This is quick!
Web traps are most useful against flying builds, but webs can also be cast out as a net to target players scurrying along the ground more effectively, essentially bringing the web to them.
What the hell? They can cast the net? What are spiders? What's going on? Like, they're doing a lot of stuff I never knew they do. What do you mean they can cast the net? Holy crap!
Them rather than waiting and hoping they wander in. Or if you want to get even more extreme, silk can be fired as a sticky projectile to pin down opponents at a safe distance. But you don't need to get anywhere near that fancy with it. Even just the basic concept of using a strand of silk to tether yourself to a surface opens up so many attack options in combat. Let me give you an example. Pouncing strikes are one of the riskiest attacking moves a player can employ in combat. They're excellent for closing distance on a target and dealing damage simultaneously. But if you miss, the momentum from the jump can result in your character ending up in a dangerous situation. Pounce is usually seen as the signature move of the cat faction. And in those examples, the worst case scenario is usually just putting yourself in range of a counterattack.
Hey, bro looked dumb. Because what were you doing?
Moves a player can employ in combat. They're excellent for closing distance on a target and dealing damage simultaneously. But if you miss, the momentum from the jump can result in your character ending up in a dangerous situation. Pounce is usually seen as the signature move of the cat faction. And in those examples, the worst case scenario is usually just putting yourself in range of a counterattack. But for builds in lower weight classes, and especially arboreal ones, whiffing a pounce attack can literally send you falling to your doom. For spiders, this risk is completely negated with a single silk tether, meaning jumping spiders can get super greedy with their attacks without needing to worry about poor positioning. Silk can even be used to approach from unconventional angles that players aren't used to covering. Great for allowing jumping spiders to attack other spiders' weak points. It really is just an incredibly broken ability, especially for the jumping spider, which can combo silk production with its excellent burst ability. We're not done though, because silk production can also be used defensively, mainly in the form of base construction. The standard web trap is technically a form of this, though it's probably the least defensive.
Wait. If spiders practice cannibalism, do other insects do the same thing? I think this is the first insect I've ever seen practicing cannibalism. If somebody knows, please tell me. Put that in the comments. Like, have you ever seen this? It's literally the first time I've ever seen a spider do that to another spider.
Oriented and frankly leaves you quite open to an attack. But skilled players can construct webs in a far more defensive manner if they choose. Styles like the tent web provide much more cover at the cost of visibility. But if you want to really max out your defenses, the trapdoor spider's strategy can't be beat. Rather than using a sticky web to trap its opponents, it instead digs a burrow and uses
What the hell was that? Like, I'm sorry for pausing a lot, but this is all just shocking to me. What the hell was that, bro?
in the form of base construction.
Why was he lurking like that?
Though it's probably the least defense-oriented and frankly leaves you quite open to an attack. But skilled players can construct webs in a far more defensive manner if they choose. Styles like the tent web provide much more cover at the cost of visibility. But if you want to really max out your defenses, the trapdoor spider's strategy can't be beat. Rather than using a sticky web to trap its opponents, it instead digs a burrow and uses silk to reinforce the walls and help control the temperature inside.
Hey, that was crazy!
Tripwires on the outside to allow the spider to detect when other players are in range of an ambush. It is admittedly a bit less precise than more active hunting types are though. Now, if you really want to go crazy with it, most of the spider's usual enemies aren't going to look for you underwater. So if you've got the guts to dive down, you can construct a bell web underwater and use that as
Hey, I'm not even surprised anymore.
It's a high-risk, high-reward playstyle though, given how many dangerous builds lurk below the surface. Overall, spiders have an incredible array of traits, and with smart play, they can subvert just about all of their weaknesses. However, there are still some vulnerabilities that skilled players can exploit. So let's talk about their matchups. The spider's best matchups are of course.
Yeah, I'm not even surprised anymore. Like, when I saw that spider underwater, I wasn't surprised because at this point they're everywhere. They are literally everywhere, bro.
Of course, flying insects. Their wings get easily tangled in the web and can get torn up as they try to escape. Getting trapped is almost certainly GG for them. Reptiles may seem like they should have a solid matchup against spiders, and of course, when there are massive size discrepancies, it can be pretty unfair. But for less tanky reptiles, spiders are a huge threat. Scale armor is great for blocking slashing damage, but piercing fangs can puncture right through their defenses and inflict devastating venomous bites. This matchup also really helps it sink in just how strong spider silk is, as even medium-sized reptiles can't easily shake it off. Frogs, and in particular tree frogs, are an especially explosive matchup. Because both frogs and spiders have incredibly low defenses, one wrong move is all it takes. Frogs can easily one-shot spiders, and because of their excellent burst mobility, it's difficult for spiders to evade their attacks. But frogs can also easily get caught in a spider's web while jumping through the trees, and once stuck, a spider can pierce through the frog's paper-thin defenses like nothing, resulting in immediate paralysis. A highly volatile matchup, and surprisingly neutral given the amphibian's low-tier status. Beetles are an interesting case. They are flying insects, but because of their absurdly high power and defense stats, they're a challenge for spiders to overcome even when caught in their web. Their armor is so thick that a spider's fangs might not be able to pierce through, and they're so strong that even when
I'm not gonna lie, bro, but I always thought spiders only eat like flies, just small things. A whole frog, a whole lizard. I never thought they eat stuff that big. Like, what would you be doing with something that big if you're that small? Like, you're just doing it for the love of the game at that point. I feel like that's the case. Because what are you going to do with that huge lizard if you're not going to be able to eat it? Do they actually eat it?
fully enveloped in a web cocoon, they can sometimes tear through. Spider players are often stuck just sitting and waiting for beetles to either free themselves or die of exhaustion. Birds are typically seen as the worst matchup for all terrestrial arthropods, but at the same time, silk web traps are highly effective against flying enemies, and birds are no exception. Webs are strong enough to capture small birds, and feathers offer very little protection against venomous fangs. However, if given the chance, birds will pick off an out-of-position spider in an instant, and the bird's armored beak presents no opportunity for the spider to counterattack. Taking out a spider is worth a lot of XP for birds, as they can also steal all of the insects that are trapped in its web. One of the spider's worst matchups is against bats, which is surprising because it's another flyer. This is because the spider's double team technique has to be used on reaction. So if a spider ever fails to see an enemy coming, it could easily
Yeah,
get one
it's
shot before it has a
over.
chance to
If they
respond.
don't see them
This makes
coming,
them especially vulnerable to builds with the echolocation ability, as they can strike from total darkness, giving the spider zero chance to detect the incoming attack before it's too late. And lastly, this isn't a matchup per se, but one of the other weaknesses spiders have are storms. Severe weather events affect web building spiders much more negatively than most characters, as high winds and heavy precipitation can render a web ineffective if it doesn't just outright destroy it. All of this to say, if you take away silk spinning, spiders are actually a real mixed bag when it comes to their viability in the meta. But with access to spinnerets, many of them jump from low mid-tier to high tier, with jumping spiders in particular being arguably top tier. Silk really is just that broken.
you heard that? You heard that? Jumping spiders are high tier. That's why I'm afraid of them. It's not that I'm afraid of spiders, it's just the jumping ones. Why do you need to do that? But hey man, I've heard enough from this because spiders are OP. I've came to that conclusion, like, how can they not be OP? They were literally underwater, bro. And it looked like they were chilling too, under the water. That's crazy. And they be catching birds, lizards, beetles, a lot of huge animals that I didn't even think they do. I think that was the end. It's just the ad after this. Yeah, it was just the ad after that. But hey, I enjoyed this video. I will be reacting to more TierZoo, so be on the lookout for that. And on that note, thank you for watching and I'll catch you on the next one.